Listen up, rugby fans across North America. You are listening to the Rugby Rant podcast show with your host, Ty Braga, Scott Ferrara, and Rob Hammerschmidt. We tackle the top topics on your behalf as the fan and share all the latest news, player interviews, and more when it comes to Major League Rugby, USA Eagles, and Rugby Canada. Rugby Rant podcast show, growing rugby one fan at a time.
And welcome, Rugby Rant fans. It's the big guy, Scott Ferrara, and you know what today is? It's Rugby Rant Day, coming at you with episode 41 of the Rugby Rant. It is Sunday. It is Rugby Rant Day. The big guy's excited. He finally got to see some rugby, some MLR rugby.
Yeah.
I'm going off on a tangent before I introduce anybody because I'm so excited. I got to check out Rooney do an inter-squad scrimmage in Jersey City, and it was awesome. It was yeah, they let me in. I mean, I don't know if they knew it. You know, I was kind of creeping like in the background, and you know, Rick Salizo was like giving me the stink eye. No, it was fine. They invited me over. They wanted to, show
don't
me
take
the
it wrong way.
and
I gotta imagine you have trouble sneaking anywhere.
What are you trying to say, Rob?
I'm saying you're loud. I'm saying you're loud. You have trouble keeping your voice.
Oh,
down.
okay,
So
yeah.
That's why.
Stop fat shaming, Rob. Stop fat shaming. So everybody, that's Rob the Hammerschmidt, and today we actually have two great guests on. We have Mike Perazzini, who is the Grand Poobah of the Empire State Rooster Boosters. Mike, welcome to the
He gets a new title every time.
I'm loving them. Each time they get better and better.
Yeah,
exactly. I just keep giving him the title there, and we actually have Rick Meyer.
Is there new pay? Is there new pay that comes with that, Mikey?
Absolutely
not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Rick.
If the big guy doesn't get paid, that Mikey doesn't get paid. Okay. So stop asking about the pay structure for Rooster Boosters. So back to Rick, who's really interrupted by the hammer as per usual. Rick is a new fan to rugby. He's only been watching rugby about 3 years. Obviously, as you could tell, he's a Seattle Seawolves fan. Rick, welcome to the show. Thanks
for having me, guys. Enjoy the podcast.
Great.
Thanks,
it's funny. Rick does enjoy the podcast. I do know that.
Yeah.
He likes everything. He's big in the group. So if you're in the MLR fan zone and you see Rick commenting and liking things, give Rick a shout out. He loves to talk rugby. He loves to learn about rugby. He's one of the great fans we have that follow our show, and that's in the MLR fan zone group. Before we go,
that's the great thing about Rick is Rick is always looking to ask questions and get answers about rugby.
Yeah.
So new fans out there, don't be afraid to do what Rick does. Ask questions of people who've been around the game a little bit, and you'll learn as you go along.
And before we get to the rules of the Rugby Rant, for those of you that don't know what it's all about, first I just want to say, it's funny, we're all wearing this nice swag here, and I really wanted to comment on Rob's top there. It's awesome. It's a MLR branded top.
Zip.
You got Mikey P with the awesome Rooney Paladin sweatshirt. I gotta be honest, that those sweatshirts they rolled out in 2020 and 2019 are ridiculously comfortable. And I know Matt Workin, who's a current New England Free Jack, likes to wear them shirtless. And then you got Rick rocking the hat and the Seawolves shirt. So for those of you that don't know, this show is sponsored by therugbyshop.com. This is the reason we're wearing all this swag. Go to therugbyshop.com for all of your rugby needs. I mean, they have custom kits. They have custom cleats. They can kit out your whole team. And guess what? Things are starting to open back up. Governor Cuomo in New York is starting to open things up as of this point. I think Texas just was like, screw it. Everything's open. Let's play some rugby. So, yeah, if you need your team kitted out, especially for this upcoming spring season, which is now open, especially in Texas, go to therugbyshop.com, speak to the guys and girls there, and they will get your team kitted. Go to therugbyshop.com. So for those of you who haven't seen the rant before, we're going to take 2 minutes to rant about a couple topics. I'm going to decide the winner. And Rob, what happens when they go over their 2 minutes?
They get the cheese.
They get the yellow card warning. If they have another infraction, they get a red card and get taken off the screen by yours truly. Some call me Nigel Owens Jr. Because I'm svelte like him. But yeah, so we're going to have a fun rant today. I'm really excited. We have some great topics. So the first topic, as many of you saw through Rugby Pass, they interviewed Gary Golden, and the Eagles head coach talked about how he is trying to work a set of test matches for the USA Eagles. The USA Eagles haven't played since the Rugby World Cup in 2019. And part of that was trying to go to South Africa to play the Springboks, which is obviously, a big deal, or going to England to play the Roses, depending on the COVID situation. Also, actually, rolling into that news about national teams, the 2021 Rugby World Cup was postponed till next year. And what does that do for our Eagles that were in? We know there was, I think, 55 ladies that were selected for Eagles training camp, to start the lead up to that. So we're going to actually be ranting about those two things in this one topic today. And I'm really excited. And Mike Perazzini, your 2 minutes starts now, buddy.
All right. So first, we'll start with the men. It's amazing that they're setting this up. I love the fact that we're going to go play possibly South Africa and possibly England as well. This is going to be a great opportunity for us to develop new talent, which is going to be great. The one problem that we've had is we need to develop new talent and get better at that. And we'll be able to see some of these new guys that have been playing in the MLR this season. So hopefully there's a few breakout stars, and hopefully we'll be able to see them coming this summer. The big thing I think that's going to have to be for the key to this success is going to be TV availability. We got to make sure that this is broadcast on a major network so that everyone could see USA Rugby, everyone could see South Africa, everyone could see England. Let's really, pump this up and make this so that everyone could watch rugby on a national level. As for the Rugby World Cup that's this year, it's incredibly unfortunate. But it is the circumstance that we're in and the reality that we're in right now. COVID is kind of taking everything over. You're seeing issues right now with France and how they have players that are going outside the bubble, or their head coach that's going outside the bubble and bringing COVID back in. And so, it's just an entire mess, but I think it's better off for the sport. They'll move it to next year in 2022, and hopefully we'll be able to see the women, take on some amazing, rugby players around the world and hopefully bring the title for us.
Yeah, those are great points, Mike, and I think everybody's just excited that there's some forethought going into this test match season. So I have a question for you, Mike. Who would you rather play, South Africa or England?
I would rather play England right now. I think even though South Africa hasn't played since 2019, they still are the Rugby World Cup champs. They still have those amazing players. And so you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I'd rather play England. I think that's where it comes down to. England looks maybe possibly of the weaker side. I don't know. But yeah. I think that England.
Yeah, well, we're not going to get into Eddie Jones selections and what all of our English fans are.
I wasn't going to go and say, what are you thinking, Eddie? Are you okay, Eddie? But it would be England possibly.
I hear that, and I think
you lost your sound there for a moment, big guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, the big guy thinks it's going to be tough for that match to go forward in South Africa, but loves the fact that there's going to be a backup in England. Great points, Mikey, as always. That's why we love having you on the show. And now to the new guy, Rick Meyer. Your 2 minutes starts now.
All right. Well, I think it's a great idea for USA to get together with the Springboks to play. I did some research and I saw that, they've only played 4 times, and each time pretty much South Africa has just kicked the crap out of them. But what I tell my son all the time is, you never lose. You either win or you learn. So in order for Team USA to get better, they have to play the big dogs. And Springboks, All Blacks, those are like the big dogs on the block right now. You ask anybody who doesn't watch rugby, those are the 2 names that I believe that people know. Any other team they don't know. But Team USA filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy back in September. So I think they're just trying to take whatever matches they can for publicity, for sponsorships, for anything they can, just to grow the game, and playing the Springboks, playing the All Blacks, just playing anybody that has a big name attached to them, I think is good for USA Rugby. Gary Gold, head coach of Team USA, I just found out that he was a former Springbok himself. Oh, yeah. So for him to play, the Springboks, the coach is going to gain experience, the team is going to gain experience. I think everybody will gain experience from it. So to me, I think it's just a positive thing for rugby in general.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think you made a great point about coming out and playing a team that has a huge watchability factor like the Springboks do. So I wonder, Rick, my question to you would be, as somebody who's new to rugby, what do you think? Obviously we play the Springboks and they haven't played in a while. We haven't played in a while, so there's potential there for a spoiler alert. But what do you see? Do you, as a new fan, is it hard to grasp the fact that, South Africa might be this much above the USA Eagles in performance?
Hard to grasp? No. Yeah, I guess. But like I said before, USA, they're just, I think they're still up and coming, and, they haven't been playing as long as, the other guys, Springboks or All Blacks. But, I just believe that they should play each other. I don't know what else to say. Yeah,
no, like we say it on the show all the time, iron sharpens iron. And,
there it is.
Rob pays me $5 to say it every time. But here's the thing, I find it, as a fan of rugby, understanding the dynamics, it's easy for me to say, okay, if we get drubbed by the Springboks, it's okay. But I just wonder if new fans, if we're going to put this match on NBC and make it, a Sunday morning, or, South Africa might be prime. It might be a prime time Saturday night for us, to be quite honest. I'm not quite sure about the time differences. I'm sure Benji's screaming at us right now going, it's, this much o'clock. But, so I wonder if you're putting it on a high profile stage in a match that USA might not be competitive, will it throw off some new rugby fans? That's my only concern.
It might, hopefully we won't see a 64-0 drubbing again like we did the last time they played. I don't think that'll happen, but anybody new to the sport, they might not care that the score is lopsided. They just want to say, well, what is this sport we're watching right here? Well, I'm like, this is rugby. This is how it's played, So
yeah. Well, that's the thing, is you have to have that partner in crime there to kind of get you into it and do some explaining and, go through some of the techniques. So, I think it's one of those things that you can make it a big event to bring your friends who are new to rugby, and you be the guy that kind of shows them the ropes. Good job, Rick. Hammer, guess what? It's your turn, baby.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I was going to use your tagline, but part of it comes down to that idea. That's on the plus side. Yeah. You got to play the big dogs to be a big dog. And so on that note, I think there are some other things, though, that I would look forward to as a pro. Number one, you get the blood potential 2023 players that are going to be in your pool, guys that haven't, maybe are on the cusp or haven't had an opportunity to really get themselves ingrained. And I'm talking about a guy like Chance Wegalewski, for example. But beyond that, there's some other guys. Even Hanko, he's been around the team, but most certainly he is. He played England, he played in the 2019 World Cup, but he's going to be a guy you're going to lean on for leadership, and you want to see him get that opportunity. What better way to do that than against the Springboks? You're going to provide your vets, who maybe this might be their last dance, an opportunity to play the Springboks, guys who haven't had a chance yet in their careers, like Paul Lusike or Campbell or Savetta, for example, get an opportunity to play the Springboks once in their career. That's a really nice tagline. One of the things that concerns me, though, is when it's going to be played. It's going to be probably somewhere in the neighborhood of early to mid-July for the match, right? That's right in the middle of MLR season. As a matter of fact, if you play the 17th of April, which is the prior to the first Lions match, what you're talking about there is you're talking about the 17th week in the MLR season. That's a problem when you're talking about guys like Cam Dole and Hanko, Savetta, and some of your Eagles that are in the MLR. They're going to be providing a leadership in the last couple of weeks to get the teams to into the playoffs and into the semis. So that's one of the things that I see as a downside. But on the plus side, you might see some of those guys who are young on MLR rosters get a chance to play because some of those seasoned vets are playing with the Eagles. So I think there's some real strong pros and cons there. One of my biggest concerns is no profitability. Flow, they control the rights here in the United States, and I just don't see it as being very accessible for a guy like, new fans like Rick.
Those are awesome. I love that 2 minutes. I think the difference is because it's going to be that big. I have a feeling it'll be a network. It'll be a network television picking up those rights no matter what. But you did make a great point. Gary Gold in his interview with Rugby Pass did say that the England match would take place. I think he said July 11th. And, we're talking, I think the championships played the 17th. So let's just put it in perspective. Let's just say Rooney gets to the championship. You might be without Dylan the Butcher Fawcett, Nate Brakely, Nick Savetta, and Hanko. Those four guys are going to be selections. So you're talking about four starters in your pack, two of them being locks, one of them being your hooker, and they could be out for the championship. Also, you guys have to realize we're going to have to play qualifiers against Canada. Those have not been announced yet. So I have a feeling they're going to have to be dropped at the end of the season, just like these supposed test matches are going to be. So I'm wondering if we're going to see a lot more guys get playing time this MLR season because we have all these guys that are going to be out on the Eagle selection.
Yeah. Can I throw out there too? Don't forget, if you're going to be playing England like the weekend of the 11th, and then the 17th, you're going to be playing the Springboks with then looking at August 1st as the final. That's problematic. But these guys actually got to play together. They haven't played together since 2019 World Cup. So you've got to have some sort of camp. So you're taking out a chunk of about 4 weeks to 5 weeks for some of these guys to play. That's a huge chunk of playing time with their MLR teams that they're going to be missing out on. And that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt the visibility of the MLR, I think.
And so I'm starting to wonder if USA Rugby and Rugby Canada are deciding to do their matches maybe after the season, because they're going to see that the end of the MLR season, these guys haven't played together. They really haven't been in a camp. You can kind of throw them in and play them against the Springboks. You can play them against England because, it's more of just getting back in the game shape, I feel, than, trying to be as competitive as you can be at that point because they haven't played together. And then once that MLR season is over, they can do their camps. And let's say September, October, start doing their qualifying matches. And I think that's where you're going to see. Going back, this is open to everybody. I'm disappointed that the Rugby World Cup 2021 was postponed. And me and Ed Pye were kind of going back and forth, and he had to comment, do you think the Men's World Cup would have been postponed in New Zealand? And I think the question, my question to him was, with New Zealand's policy about not letting foreign travelers in, I felt men's or women's wouldn't have enough ticket draw to give them a revenue that they were looking for. What do you guys think?
I 100% agree. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things I wrote down as I was listening to Mikey P talk about the Women's World Cup. I think it's one of the things one of the reasons why they canceled. I mean, granted, the women's game doesn't draw as much money into the host nation as the men's game. I think the men's was somewhere in Japan like $800 million or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, that's a huge chunk of change. Even if it's a quarter for the women's, that's a lot of lost revenue for the host nation. And you got to think that that's a lot of lost money that's going to go into the respective unions.
Yeah. And I think
not even just
the other thing is
no one can travel.
No, go ahead, Mike.
If no one can travel, that means that there's no fans that are coming in. If there's no one can travel, that means there's no fans coming in. That means that there's no one staying at hotels. That means there's no one going to restaurants. Means there's no one buying gear. So what would be normally a great stimulus for, the host country is kind of mute, not to mention the fact that, unfortunately, in the world we live in, the women's rugby game doesn't draw nearly the amount of broadcast revenue or that the men's game does. So while the men can rely on some broadcast revenue, the women can't nearly as much. So definitely you need more fans in the seats.
For me, if I was a New Zealander and they still had this World Cup going on, I'd want to go to every match. If I had the opportunity to go see teams that I don't normally get to see, men's or women's, my wife would hate me. I'd be at every match all the time because I would have the opportunity. I mean, let's think about it though. If you have a Rugby World Cup anywhere, as a person living in that particular host country, one, it's going to be hard to get a ticket, obviously, to your own teams, but like with a lot of foreign nationals coming in to see their teams, sometimes it's hard to get a ticket to go see those international teams coming in. So it would be rugby galore. I could see me and TJ Olsen just like, oh, we're going to go to this match. Oh, we're going to go to this match. And we're just going to watch rugby till we friggin' drop.
Lost your mic again.
Yeah. TJ'd be like a golden retriever. When his family comes home, he gets so excited he'd pee on the floor.
He watches so much rugby, it's unbelievable. Like, me and him have conversations, and he's like, did you see this match? Did you see that match? And this, and I'm like, where do you see it all? And he's like, well, I have my ways. I'm like, well, then I can't watch with you if you're not going to give up the secret. So TJ, come on, give up the secret. But Rick, I have a question for you. So for the Women's World Cup, and again, this is a question for a new fan, really. How, when you came into watching rugby, so I'll preface it with this: when you came into watching rugby, you learned about through the MLR or the national team, or how?
Well, yeah, it was maybe the Olympics. Honestly, it was the rugby sevens that caught my eye first. Being a fan of just football, baseball, just fast sports, rugby was something simple that me and my son could watch together. So we caught our eye. And then I started expanding my horizons from rugby 7, not knowing there was rugby 10s, rugby 15s, Madrid 7s, every day, all these different leagues. So I can't get enough rugby. The variety is crazy. So one rule in one sport is different in another. So it's just, that's what caught me was the 7s first. And then knowing the rules a little bit there, I was able to go over to the 15s and then, a little bit slower game, but I fell in love with it because it's kind of like watching hockey. It's nonstop. And that's what I love about rugby. It's nonstop. So my attention is there the entire time till the half's over, take a break, bam, I'm right back at it again.
Awesome. So my follow-up question to that is, how disappointed were you to see that the Rugby World Cup was canceled? Because, let's be honest, you haven't been able to watch rugby in a long time, and this was going to be a major tournament with the national team that we're going to see right now. So what was your level of disappointment?
In this time and age now, expect the unexpected. Stuff's going to happen beyond my control, beyond your control. So the fact that, it just they schedule something, and at the last minute it's canceled. So it doesn't surprise me. I was a little bummed that I'll have to wait another year to watch some more rugby, but I guess it's for the better.
Yeah, wise words from a wise man, as the Hammer might say. So that was a great round, guys. I always have trouble picking winners. I think Ty always likes to pick me because I'm right. But I didn't really want to get too much of an opinion and kind of take over the show, because I can't present the trophy to myself. That would just be rude. But this is a way for the Hammer to try and get back in the game, as we all know. So while I think about that and think about who I'm going to pick as a winner, we're going to take a break. Let's keep the lights on here and hear from our sponsors.
Rugby Coffee was born out of two passions: providing ethically sourced coffee and promoting the growth and development of rugby. By combining these two passions, the folks at Rugby Coffee see an opportunity to bring people together. And together, we can make a difference. Rugby Coffee invests 10% of their profits into giving kids opportunities to play rugby and projects that help uplift their communities. These endeavors have been transformational in many kids' lives and uplifted and empowered all these communities that they have touched. They have launched a new brew for the UK and are currently creating a unique flavor profile for North America. Get your brew and support youth rugby. A simple vision can be transformational. Rugby as a sport can inspire communities, bring hope, and provide opportunity. Rugby Coffee seeks to do all those things with one endeavor.
Get prepared for St. Patrick's Day with Manscaped. If you're feeling a little lucky, you need Manscaped to help you out. Manscaped is the global leader in below-the-waist grooming and the official sponsor of the Rugby Rant. To ensure you have the best tools for your family jewels, visit manscaped.com and use the code Rugby Rant for 20% off and free international shipping for all of our international fans there, and domestic shipping within the U.S. You're in luck because Manscaped High Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Included is the new Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, which has a waterproof, which is waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM powered motor, 360-degree rotary dual blade system. Look, guys, 79% of our partners that were polled admit that long nose hair and long ear hair is a major turnoff, and that's how you don't get lucky on St. Patrick's Day, no matter how much love and affection you give to your man or woman out there. The bundle also includes the Lawnmower 3.0, the best ball trimmer on the market for your butt and your body. You can use it all over the place. You can use it in the shower. It's waterproof. It has a huge light on it. It's ridiculous. It's almost like a ring light, so you can make sure you get all the hairs down there that you need to get. It also features the cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. Thanks to the advanced skin-safe technology, you'll feel confident shaving your thunder down under. Again, it's the I can't say enough about the bundle and getting all the stuff, because you get the trimmer, the lawnmower, you get the Weed Whacker, you get the crop preserver and crop reviver, which helps you stay nice and smell good down there when you need to. The performance package is the best value that Manscaped has to offer and is hot off the shelves. Again, get 20% off and free shipping when you use the code Rugby Rant. Help us keep the lights on, ladies and gentlemen. Also, with every purchase at manscaped.com, contribution is made toward the Testicular Cancer Society to bring awareness to testicular cancer, men's health, and early cancer detection. Again, go to manscaped.com and use the code Rugby Rant to get 20% off free shipping internationally. Your balls will thank you. And welcome back, Rugby Rant fans. It is the second part to our episode 41. Again, it's the first part of this episode was great. I mean, we got to actually talk about the national teams. We haven't talked about the national teams in a while. So I was very happy to talk about them. Now, this second topic, I've been putting up on the Fan Zone poll for 4 months, Hammer, right? It has to be 4 months.
At least. Yeah, at least. Well, at least since December when the first schedule came out.
Yeah, and it has never been picked. And finally, not only was it picked, it was the number one things you guys want to talk about. We are going to talk about what is the best derby rivalry in the MLR today. And I'm not going to say anything. You guys all know where my allegiances lie. And I'm just going to keep quiet on this one and hopefully just ask some pointed questions. But as we get into it, we're going to go opposite. We started with Mikey P last round. We ended with Rob. So Hammer, we're going to start with you. Your 2 minutes start now. Yeah.
So the derbies that I really look forward to actually are in week 6 and week 14. By the way, MLR, you're welcome to use this name. Just give the Hammer credit. We're calling it the Coastal Cup, in spite of the fact that the opening round in week 6 will actually be played in Vegas. So who knows, maybe they'll get a chance to go back to LA and actually play on the coast. But I'm looking forward to that. I think there's going to be a great matchup. I think LA is going to surprise a lot of folks. They have a strong lineup. You got some of your guys that have come from Colorado, Blake Rogers, Mika Cruze, Ryberg, but you also have DTH Vander Merve, who's actually going to be on our show, I think, next week for the RPK. And then Adam Ashley Cooper recently signed former Wallaby, so that should be pretty good. And the other side, of course, you have Krish Robshaw. That should be really good. Cecil Africa, Nessa Koke, Joe Peterson is always a joy to watch. And, of course, I'd love to see Patrick Madden get run out. What a great kid. I'm a big fan of his. So that's one of the big derbies I'm looking for. Some other things to pay attention to, of course, it's the big guy versus the Hammer on the second weekend. I'll be there in NOLA for it. I'll get to actually see Rooney play before either Mikey P or the big guy get to see them play this season. So I'm real excited about that one. Pay attention to the Texas Cup, AGs versus Houston in week 3. That'll be the opening round. Houston will want to get some revenge. So I'm looking forward to those ones. And don't forget, we got the Freedom Cup. That's, again, another one of my Hammer names. And that's week 12. So a lot of great derbies coming up, but pay particular attention to LA and San Diego.
I think LA San Diego might be the rivalry of 2021 with the names they're dropping. San Diego just signed Chris Ballman on Wednesday when we're recording this. Mm-hmm. So I mean that's just another piece added to their puzzle, and especially in their power unit in the tight 5 there. So I got a question, Rob. Here's my pointed question: Who's going to win the Derby in your Coastal Cup there?
Oh boy, I'm gonna go with LA. I think people, yeah, please do, because I really think actually because so many guys come from that program over and outside of Sydney. The what is it? The 2 coaches there are from I forget the club. Renwick. They're from Renwick.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think you're going to see a lot of guys come from that Renwick club. They're already going to have an existing kind of structure that they're familiar with, and then all the pieces that have been built around it will just pick up right where they left off. I think it'll be a really tough club.
The second thing I want to say, Rob, is suck it, because I'm so mad that you're going to be able to watch Rooney before me and Mike P. So I just wanted to publicly shame you for throwing it back in my face. But no, you made good points, and I do really love. I think LA San Diego is going to be a huge rivalry. Obviously, it's the California kids, playing against each other. And it's going to be interesting to watch them play in Vegas. And I wonder if the Legion will have the same home field atmosphere with maybe some less, they're going to have probably less amount of fans. People aren't going to be able to travel. And I wonder how much of the cohort is actually going to show up for the San Diego side. So we'll see if they're playing in a quieter stadium, what's going to happen. I mean, we know they could do it on the field, but sometimes there's just that energy you get from the home fans. But that was a good 2 minutes, Rob. I like that. So now we're going to the new guy, Rick. Your 2 minutes starts now.
All right. Well, being a Seattle Seawolves fan, I think that the game that I always look forward to is San Diego. They just get together and they're just physical. It seems like they try to one up each other with, who they sign. I saw like the players that I'm familiar with Seattle are, return Ben Seema, Brad Tucker, Brock Stoller, Matt Turner, all those guys coming back. I'm looking forward to seeing the two rookies from the draft, Aaron Matthews and Nicholas Taylor, see what they can do on the pitch. But that rivalry just seems like it grows, it festers. It sometimes, I know it's a friendly rivalry, but I think sometimes the fans might get a little rough with each other. Compare, on the social medias that I've been going at. I just think that game, since they beat them, 2000 or last year before COVID, San Diego had their number in the one game that they played. I think San Diego dominated that game. That from what I remember. So that's the game that I'm looking forward to. I think it's week 6. Another game I'm looking forward to is Seattle at LA. They're going to be playing in the Coliseum, the Giltinis. I don't know if they'll allow fans in the stands quite yet, but I think that stadium's big enough that they can socially distance, so they can have some fans there. Utah, I'm looking forward to that game as well. Utah seems like a good squad. I know that one of the owners actually lives up here, and he's opening up that youth camp up here. So we got, Utah Warrior close to home up here. Toronto, I think will be a good game like always. And then the Free Jacks, Philly playing Seattle in a Free Jacks uniform. That's going to be awkward to see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's tough. So I guess my question to you is going to be, now that San Diego does have LA, and that seems like the more natural rivalry prior or now versus prior when it was San Diego and Seattle. I mean, do you think that derby will kind of turn to Seattle and Utah instead?
I think it's leaning that way. We got to see what the Giltinis can do, and maybe after this year we'll have a better answer. But I think so. I think Utah, versus Seattle, maybe a little bit closer, but I think I can see that happening.
If I could just interject, what I think is interesting that Rick brought up is the interaction between fans online. And while it's been good banter, it's banter nonetheless. I think it for the first 2 or 3 seasons, because it was relatively new, there was just all this kumbaya. We're all in it together. We all love the MLR. We all love to see teams. Now I think you're seeing fans strike out on their own, go, you know what? Like the people down in NOLA, they don't like Atlanta. And I think you're seeing fans, while it's good-natured, there's a genuine desire to put energy and fire into these rivalries. And I think ultimately that's good to see. I think that's a great point, Rick.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's good for the sport. I mean, don't get too personal, but a little bantering back and forth. It's good for the game. It pumps the fans up, just like any other sport.
No, absolutely. I can't disagree with that at all. I think you're getting it not just from the derbies. I mean, you get it from people, across coasts. I mean, while I'm friendly with, I try and be friendly with every fan. I do, throw some stuff here and there to jabs to San Diego. To LA fans. I'm a saint. As Mikey P knows, I'm a saint. Speaking of Mikey P,
Absolutely.
Mikey, your time starts now, buddy.
So my big rivalry this year is going to be between Rooney and Toronto. Some people are thinking Rooney and Free Jacks. Nope, I'm going Rooney, Toronto. It really comes down to the fact that, in 2019, these teams went 1-1. They were the 2 teams from the East, and they were the new teams. And so the big boys coming onto the block, we did not get to see them in 2020, which was entirely unfortunate. But they're hungry. So I'm thinking week 5, week 13, New York versus Toronto. Rooney's getting a lot of the same guys back. Hanko's come back. Dylan Fawcett's come back. Nate Braitley's comes back. You add Andy Ellis as well. So a lot of good names coming out of Rooney. And then you just have the fact that, Toronto is the developmental team for Canada as well as the developmental team for Uruguay. So you've got a lot of new guys that are going to be coming, hopefully names that you're going to be seeing in the 2023 Rugby World Cup. So that's who I'm going to think. My minor rivalries, I'm going to go with NOLA and Houston. You got the Gulf Coast rivalry kind of there. They only play once, but and the fact that they play in different leagues, but it's still a Gulf Coast rivalry there. So hopefully we see something good out of them. 2 teams that maybe didn't exceed to what they wanted to last year, but hopefully, in 2021, we'll do a lot better.
No, definitely, and I think you're right that Gulf Coast rivalry is something that they can kind of push. I never thought about that actually. I like that a lot actually. Now that you're talking about it, that's a great point. That might be a bonus point for Mikey P there. But my question, Mike, is obviously Toronto not playing in Toronto is tough this year. But do you think that maybe next year it'll kind of mellow out to be a Toronto Free Jack Derby, a Rooney OG Derby, because you already kind of have that laid out there, and if we don't have any more teams coming to the East Coast?
You might. The fact that you have 4 teams that are reasonably close to one another, it kind of makes anyone who's in those top 2 spots become that derby. So if, Old Glory becomes the dominant team in the East, or of those 4 teams, that becomes the rivalry between Rooney. So I think, it's going to possibly could shift from year to year, or from what the previous year was. So if, Rooney remains dominant and Toronto remains dominant, I see those 2 going forward. If the Free Jacks and Old Glory come out and they're incredibly dominant, maybe that's where the rivalry shifts to.
Yeah, I think it's different. Obviously there's a huge rivalry between New York and Boston for sports, but let's be honest, it's a Yankees-Boston rivalry. The Giants and the Patriots really don't have a rivalry. It's Giants and Philly, it's Rangers and Philly, it's Mets and the Phillies. So I think until we get a Philly MLR team, which I hope comes in way before Chicago, just two reasons. One, it'll give us a really close away match to go to, and 2, it'll hurt the hammer right in his heart. But I think eventually there'll be enough teams that you can actually have real natural rivals. And I think if there's no more East Coast teams coming in or Northeast teams coming in, I think you're going to see the Toronto and the Free Jacks kind of draw closer as a derby, and Rooney and OGs draw closer as a derby. So I think one of the derbies we didn't talk about is Austin versus Houston. It's the Texas Cup, baby. The Jackals are out of it. This is going to be a no holds barred, a crazy 2 matches. They're going to go hard. I mean, the Austin came in. They're cup holders. So I'm going to go around the board. Start with Rob. Rob, who's winning the Texas Cup?
Austin. Lerome White's going to have Lerome White's going to have his boys down there fired up. I also think Austin added to their roster tremendously in the offseason. I really think they added a lot of depth. They added a lot of toughness. They added a lot of physicality. I think they're going to be really tough to beat. They're going to surprise some people because the last 2 seasons, they haven't really been that good. That didn't win a game in 2019. They won 1 game last year. It was the Texas Cup match against Houston. So I think they're going to surprise a lot of folks in the West. And more specifically, I think they're going to beat the Cats up a little bit. Sorry, Larry. Apologize.
Our boy Larry's going to be disappointed that you picked them. Rick, who do you got win the Texas Cup?
I not knowing the teams, I have to go with Austin. It just seems that their social media, whoever runs it, is doing a phenomenal job. So I think it's going to pump up the fans, which in turn is going to pump up the team. And I think Austin's going to take it.
Crazy. Mike, are you picking Austin or are you going with Houston, buddy?
Yeah, normally I'm a contrarian, but I will go with Austin. And I think that really the real winner, though, is going to be the fans of both Austin and Houston. The fact that, Texas has now opened up possibly means that fans are going to be able to go to the stadium. Right. So that means that there's going to be, fans in the seats watching live rugby, which is going to be great for everybody.
And I picked the Jackals.
Dustin. I don't normally favor Dustin, but I think I'm going to have to go with his team this time. So, sorry, once again, sorry, Larry, but that's the way it goes.
I picked the Jackals, and obviously that was a bad pick, and I knew that was going to come back to bite me because the big guy has bad luck. But I'm actually going to go with Austin too, and one particular reason. Have you seen the hype man, Brendan Rams? My boy Brendan is the hype man of all hype men. The dude is out there every morning getting people ready, getting them through their workouts. And I mean, if you need that last rep if you have Brendan Rams next to you, I'm telling you, you could bench 2,000 pounds. I swear to you can lift a car, you can pull a friggin' fire truck. I mean, the dude is all hype all the time. And I think that's the type of energy you need to bring to the MLR and specifically to Austin. So that way they can up their game. So I think I'm going to have to obviously augment it. And I'm going with Austin, which is weird because we've now all agreed and that's not what the show is about. So thanks, Mike, for fucking that up. But, I think another rivalry, and this might be only for this year, but I think it's going to be a rivalry, is going to be Toronto and Atlanta. I mean, they're sharing a pitch, right, guys? Am I wrong about that? Mike, what do you think?
Yeah.
100%. I was going to pick that as one of those weird kind of rivalries, the fact that they share a pitch. Who knows if there's going to be some cross-training between the two teams, but the fact that, Toronto's going to be down there, Atlanta's there, maybe there is some, warm, cold weather rivalry that, starts to happen in the future. But I think, at least for this year, that's definitely a rivalry.
See, I disagree. I think they're going to spend so much time in close proximity that they're going to be singing Kumbaya and playing a guitar after the match. I don't think it's going to be a rivalry at all. I think they're going to be used to one another, kind of seeing each other every day, day in and day out. So, yeah, I think it'll be like, those guys, we see them every day.
Do you think they'll practice together?
I think they'll have a few exhibitions, where they do a little bit of, set piece play, some limited situational drills. They probably get together before then, but not on a regular basis. No.
Okay. So that game should be a good game.
Yeah. See, I disagree with that though, Rob. I think they're going to be staying in their own bubbles just for that, the COVID plan that I've seen a lot of teams put out, having the bubble. Like, for example, obviously, as I mentioned in the prior segment, I got to see a Rooney scrimmage, but, I was given restrictions on what I could do. I had to stay behind the gate. I couldn't enter the field because that's breaking the bubble. Obviously I couldn't high five or shake anybody's hands. It's breaking the bubble. So, I did my talking to all my friends from far away. So I think they're going to be more strict about that, considering they're going to have to be sharing spaces that maybe they're not going to cross over that bubble that much. But I do think they should definitely put just a trophy, even if for this year, call it the COVID Cup, and hope that no, seriously, and hope that Toronto's going to be back at home, and just say, hey, we had that one year we had the trophy, it was the COVID Cup, and Toronto or Atlanta played it, and we'll make that second game. We'll determine the winner, obviously. So I think you could do something like that, and just have a one-off thing, like Mike said. I think it'll be exciting. I mean, that would be cool. That would give me more. Obviously I watch every MLR match, but I feel like as a fan, that would give me a lot more incentive to watch Toronto and Atlanta if I wasn't a fan of those teams, because there are fans that only watch their teams. They're not as crazy as the big guy. So I think there's another one we didn't necessarily talk about, and I think it's the rivalry between the big guy and the hammer. Rooney Nola always seems to be a great game, and they had in 2019 they had probably one of the best games. That the last 10 minutes where Rooney stormed back to win the match, nobody saw because the feed cut out. Remember that one, Hammer?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think and don't forget too, in 2019, I think Rooney won the match to put them in position to be in a semifinal, and it stopped Nola, I think, by a point or two on the table from actually having an opportunity to play in the playoffs. So I think there's a little ice between those two teams for sure.
Absolutely, you are absolutely right. Rooney did play Nola, beat them, and took that spot to go to the semifinal. 2-0 against Nola lifetime. So while I don't think it's a natural derby like the Free Jacks derby is, I do think that because of the amount of teams in the league, you're going to see those little things pop up, and guys aren't going to forget. And the big guy just wants to talk about the Free Jacks and Rooney. Obviously, again, natural derby, New York and Boston. It's going to be a good one. I think Rooney really is looking to get back because they lost that one against the Free Jacks last year, and they kind of got punched in the mouth and embarrassed by them, especially since they're coming off a semifinal campaign that they lost to the death to Seattle. To San Diego. They were 2 minutes away from winning that game, and then the first game back, you got punched right in the mouth by not only the first opponent you're playing, but your frigging rival from Boston. So it's not good to see. And I think Rooney is gunning for him, being 0-1 against the Free Jacks. So, I think we got to watch out. But I mean, I think there's so much we could. I mean, we can go into so many more different derbies. I mean, you can go into things like, players who've moved on, like and gone to different places. Like Rick was saying, Villy moving over to Free Jacks, Matt working from Rooney, dead to me. He went to the Free Jacks. You can't go from Rooney to the Free Jacks. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, I told them outright. I said, I let the guys know when they join Rooney, you can go anywhere, but if you go to the Free Jacks, you're dead to us, man. So I think I'm glad the fans are taking the rivalry seriously. I'm glad that, like Rick said, people are doing, they're having fun with the rivalries. I mean, I already know the cohort is talking about trying to get to the Coliseum if there's fans and taking over and showing that there's more SD fans than Giltini fans. So I'm glad the way it's going. I think everybody who's part of their group is kind of policing themselves to make sure that it's fun banter. And it's not going overboard. And I think that's what we need in the MLR. So I think those are all great topics, man. Jesus. And oh God, this is, I know I literally say this every episode, but it's so the hammer's out. I'll put it that way. The hammer's out. And that's not just because I already have.
Whoa. Why am I out? Explain yourself, mister.
One, because I think, first of all, Rick, as a first timer, had you on a lot of points. You're the cagey veteran, so you can't have the new kid coming slapping you around. And Mike got the bonus point, so that hammer's out. Hammer's definitely out. Rick had some great points and Mikey had some great points. And even though Mikey had the bonus point, I think I got to give it to Rick. I think Rick won this one, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why you won, Rick. You've come in. You have a certain amount of knowledge about rugby. I know how well you prepped for this, and that shows in the points you made. And I think that's why I feel you won the rant here. So, Rick, you have 2 minutes to give a shout out to anybody you want. Who do you want to shout out?
Hold on, just a second. Just so you know, here in the Midwest, we have pickup trucks instead of Cadillacs with trunks. I'm coming for you, big guy. I'm driving out to New York.
Get the hell out of here.
Truck, and I'll drop you off in some cornfield in the middle of Illinois.
I'll just eat my way out, Rob. I'll just eat my way out.
Corn mazes, they're a bit.
Oh, since you like to interrupt people, Rick, your 2 minutes. Give a shout out to somebody.
Well, I just want to say thank you guys. This brought me out of my comfort zone. It's making me learn more about the game, which I thoroughly enjoy. But I want to shout out the Seawolves community on Facebook. Anytime I have a question, they don't make me seem like it's a stupid question. They say, "Oh yeah, no problem, we can answer that." Tony Ridnell. He is always there and always answers a question for me, man. And then I want to shout out Matthew Alexander. He actually reached out to me 2 years ago when I went to my first rugby game, and he invited me down to sit with him at his table. We were at field level, me and my boy, and man, it was just a great time. Got on the field. He bought me a pint at the game. I mean, I couldn't say enough about the guy. Stephen Volk, another guy. Christian Jacobson, another guy. All Seawolves fans. I mean, the rugby community in general is what I'm falling in love with, because it just seems like everybody is just genuinely good people. Everybody comes together, and it's just an extended family. So I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Absolutely. And I want to shout out Tony Ridnell, Chris Jacobson, and his wife, Marnie. Three good friends of mine. We talk online. When they came to MCU Park, we had a great time. We helped them with some merch to auction off to go to a great charity. And I think you're right, Rick. I think it's those experiences which Rob and Mike have yet to experience, going to an MLR match, of just the camaraderie you're going to see there. Somebody's going to see you in Rooney gear, sit next to you, and just start talking about rugby. I was fortunate enough with my season tickets in 2019 to sit in an area where they were putting a lot of new fans and fans off the street. And I tried to make myself available. I tried to, explain things when people were like, what was that? What was that penalty? What was this play? This, that, the other thing. So, I think every fan tries to make themselves available for these new fans. And I think that's exactly what we need. And it's helping grow the game like we do here at the Rugby Rant, one fan at a time. So Rugby Rant fans, that's another one done and dusted, baby. The hammer loses, which is always great. We have a good friend of mine, Mikey P, back on the show. We have a great new guest in Rick Meyer, and I definitely think we're going to have Rick back. What do you say, Rob?
I don't know if you keep voting for him. He's not back in my mind. He's going to stay in Seattle.
Maybe he's coming for Rick in Washington. Maybe you're going the other way, Rob, with your pickup truck. But I mean, I think a Cadillac.
That's too far to drive. I'd fall asleep on Nebraska.
Well, Rugby Rant fans, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please, again, check out us at Rugby Rant on all social media. That's Instagram, Twitter. Check out the Facebook page. Check out the MLR Fan Zone where we do a lot of interaction with fans. We have a TikTok now. Maybe you'll see the big guy doing a couple dances. Probably not. But, you never know. The big guy might get a little fun during some of these games and do something on TikTok. Please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. That helps us out a lot. If you can't watch the videos, listen to us wherever you get podcasts. I'm the big guy, Scott Ferrara. That's Rob the Hammer Schmidt. And with talking about Ty, who couldn't be with us today, just want to show you guys some love. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll talk to you guys at the next one.
Well, rugby fans, that's another episode done and dusted. Make sure that you follow us on YouTube, follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages to be able to learn more about upcoming episodes. And once again, thank you for listening to the Major League Rugby Rant podcast show.